Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Ruck Up Buttercup. We are back with another episode and here with another really great resource and guest. We have Berenice from Military Spouse Advocacy Network, and we're going to call it MSAN or MSAN the rest of the time so that you guys kind of know what it is. It's a long name, but we have her here to tell us a little bit about what they have. They have a really, really cool hub and program that they offer to military families. Would you go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit?
Of course. Thank you so much, ladies, for having me. Very exciting about this. Berenice Castillo. I am the founder and CEO at Military Spouse Advocacy Network. And it is a nonprofit organization that we focus on providing military spouses the education, empowerment, and support that they need. I'll be able to talk more about it throughout our conversation. I am an Air Force spouse. My husband retired after 27 years of service 3 years ago. But to me, I'm still in the military lifestyle because I'm still in it. He's the only one feeling that anxiety separation. I'm still in it, but yeah, I love it. Thank you for
I feel
having
like
me here.
once you're a spouse, you're always a spouse, no matter where
Yes,
you're at in
yeah,
that journey.
yes, I agree.
So, tell us a little bit about the Military Spouse Advocacy Network. So, when did it start? It's been around for a few years, correct?
Yeah, so this is our 10th anniversary. We
Oh,
will be
wow.
10 years old in November. We've been around for almost 10 years. And it started just like many of us volunteering, just wanting to help other military spouses with a specific vision. And from there, it grew and grew and grew. And the beautiful thing about MSAN is that we have not changed our mission or our programming in the 10 years that we've been around. So we know that what we are providing to our community is something that continues to be needed.
Mhm.
So finding support will always be needed. So yeah, we're very happy about it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's really cool. Say we're sponsored by Deployed Love, and I know you know that because you've been talking to us, but it is amazing to see a nonprofit that keeps the exact same like consistency across the board because we've had to change things. Obviously, I mean when you're coming out as a new nonprofit, it's a lot of like what works and what doesn't work for
Yes.
your organization and what sticks on the mission and what doesn't feel like it fits in the mission quite right. So we've had some things that come and gone, and we also started at the beginning of COVID, so it was like what worked really good, and then all of a sudden it was just like we hit a brick wall, and it's like we have to figure out how we can change everything to continue to work. So to see that you
Yeah.
guys made it all the way through COVID and still continued everything on the other end, like just the same way that you started out, is really, really cool.
Yeah. Something that happened is that when I started MSAN, and providing the peer-to-peer mentorship, everything was virtual. And that was prior to COVID. So when we hit COVID, we were like, oh, we're already doing it. So we were not affected by it within our programming. What happened was that our programming was focused for brand new military spouses, peer-to-peer mentorship from day one. But what happened during COVID is that we started receiving requests from spouses, seasoned spouses about to transition, everyone at different stages of the military lifestyle, everybody reaching out asking for a mentor. So the only thing that we had to do was open all of our programming to all spouses, including veteran spouses, because they were needing help. But it was kind of like, well, it's kind of cool that we were already doing the virtual thing even prior to COVID.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Like, so talk to us a little bit about like what your program is. Like, what's your main program? So you have the, am I using this right? The sponsorship, like you have a
Mentorship.
mentorship. That's what I wanted to
Mentorship,
say. So
yeah.
let's talk about that one. So you have military spouses who sign up to be mentors within your hub. Is
Mhm.
that correct?
Yeah, that's 100%. And I can give you a little bit of a background of how everything started and kind of like how we relate within the lifestyle. I am an immigrant from Mexico. I came to the United States when I was 16. And that was my very first time experiencing leaving everything behind
Mhm.
to go to a place where I didn't know the language. I was feeling isolated. I was feeling out of place. Then I became a brand new military spouse when I was 24. And guess what? I experienced everything all over again. At that moment, I thought that probably I was the only one, just like I did when I was 16. But then throughout within the time, I realized that I was not the only one. And I was like, okay, you know what? I need to support other military spouses to not go through the same thing. So back in the day, I decided to become a mentor, mainly to the brand new spouses that were coming to the squadron. So I
Mhm.
will meet with them and talk to them about what is available, what do you need, uh, And that's how I started the peer-to-peer mentorship program. I did not want other spouses to feel isolated, to feel that they were the only ones going through this, and not being having the enough knowledge about what is available to them as military spouses. So that's what I was doing as a volunteer, and it was just me, just doing it on my own. It eventually grew because now other spouses wanted to join and other branches wanted to be part of it. So I was kind of pushed to create this program into a nonprofit that I never really even considered doing a nonprofit because I had no clue about how to start or run a nonprofit. And it was very, very scary. I was afraid that I was no longer going to have that one-on-one experience with spouses or hear the stories. I was worried that I was just going to be behind a desk running a nonprofit. So I've been able to balance it all, to still being able to hear the stories and fill my cup and be able to help at the same time that I'm running a nonprofit. But I wanted to have something that spouses will not only receive the support and become educated, I also wanted them to become empowered and be able to receive the skills to now pay it forward in our community. So that's how MSAN started, with a peer-to-peer mentorship. A spouse comes our way, we provide the mentor support 24/7. All of our volunteers receive professional training, including they are all certified mental health allies, which means that they are able to hold tough conversations with spouses that are in crisis while they actually receive support from a professional. So they come to us, we give them a mentor, they receive the support that they need, we're open 24/7. And we also provide them what we call the mentorship hub, which is kind of like an educational virtual resource, so where they can receive trainings and modules and learn about resources, you name it. And the third program that we have is the Military Spouse Leadership Development Program. So like I said, right now, we have spouses coming our way, we provide the support they need, we educate them on resources. Now, how do we actually equip military spouses to become leaders in their community? We all know that military spouses are known for what? Wanting to make things better, for wanting to get out there and support everyone else and be the change that we want to see. But most of the times we don't have the skills that we need. At least I was one of them. I wanted to create changes in programs, but I had no skills. I didn't know where to start. So the program that we worked on, the leadership development program, we partnered with Harvard University so that they can teach a cohort of 50 military spouses every year. This year will be 2 cohorts, which will be 100 military spouses, to receive leadership training in how to become leaders within themselves, within their families or communities, how to deal with leadership in crisis, conflict resolution, tough conversations. So we have 4 months of training with Harvard University. We also bring panelists from DOD, the White House, community leaders, you name it. So it is a wonderful program because you learn about not only you're learning about leadership and leadership in crisis, but it's very modified according to the lifestyle, which is extremely unique to what is out there. Because pretty much leadership is one size fits all, but it doesn't really fit our lifestyle. So what we are doing with our program is very focused on the lifestyle as a military spouse. So that's what is MSAN. That's our programming, and that's kind of like they connect with each other as a big picture for military spouses.
I think that's so cool. I mean, especially through like huge college that is sponsoring you guys to be able to provide that leadership course is like really cool. So can you kind of tell us like how do we get in that? I know that I was looking at your website and it for the year is closed, but I am very interested
I
in taking
actually
that
applied for this year, so I'm really hopeful that I will get to partake in it. But
Best of luck, Ashley.
yeah,
You know,
it is. I'm sure
it's very
there's a lot of
competitive.
yeah, very competitive. I did apply for it. I've been following the program for a little bit, and I didn't really realize until this past year how like in depth that training is, just kind of like going through the hub and things like that. And I was like, oh, this is a really great opportunity. I've been trying to figure out like where, wanting to do a little bit more leadership in classes and kind of learning a little bit more so that way I can be more successful in running deployed love and things like that. And I was like, let me try. Let me apply. Worst case is I won't get accepted and I'll have to try again. Best case is I'm going to get to do an amazing opportunity that you guys provide for military spouses, because like you said, you're kind of thrown into this like running a nonprofit, and that's me and Sabrina. We had no idea what we were doing with Deployed Love. Sabrina founded it and started it off, and I joined a few years later. And it's definitely a weird world to tread, especially when you're a military spouse, because we're constantly moving. I'm not even at a military installation right now. I'm actually on a special duty assignment, and so it's very different being not in the area and running a nonprofit. So I really enjoyed the hub. Have you been on the hub yet, Sabrina?
Mm-mm.
It's a cute little app, and there's classes and stuff like that, and chats. What was the chat? I don't remember the chat, but I've learned quite a bit on it so far, and I've only been on it for maybe 2 months. So
how can
Yes.
people
I
apply
mean,
to, not only the leadership thing? I mean, I think that sounds like it's kind of just like you apply online, but to become a mentor, you were saying that there's a lot of training also with that.
mhm. Yes, so everything is located in our website. So if somebody wants to become a volunteer, you can just go to our website and find out ways how to join the team, and it will give you the opening positions available. And then, of course, the training. We do quarterly development trainings, and then, of course, all volunteers receive the mental health ally certification. You go through 11 hours of training, which covers domestic violence, suicide ideation, how to communicate with people in distress, so many different topics. Plus, you earn 11 CE hours on top of that. So we cannot pay our volunteers. We wish we could, but at least we invest in giving you the skills and the training and the education as much as we can, because that's how much we appreciate all of our volunteers. So you go through that, and we got volunteers all over the world. They are everywhere. And that is how kind of like we are able to cover the 24/7, because we are always having someone around the world that is ready to support. So to become a volunteer, the website has the information. Like I said, we invest in our volunteers when it comes to equip them to be successful at their roles. When it comes to the leadership development program, we usually start advertising ahead of time. We're going to open applications. It's usually around 4 or 5 weeks open period, and you apply. And then we do around a couple of months viewing applications. We only select 50 military spouses. We usually have around 1,000 military spouses that are interested in this program every cohort. And the reason why we only do 50 is because if we grow the team, then it becomes a conference, and you no longer get to build relationships with your peers. You no longer get to know each other, and it no longer feels like a classroom atmosphere, which is exactly what we do. So we know we know the need out there, but we only select 50 because the alumni that graduate, and probably you get to see and read about it on social media, how much people love this program, not only because of what they learn, but the relationships that they are building, because people are collaborating with each other after they graduate, because they are supporting, because they stay in touch, you name it. So we love that aspect of the program. And like I said, thanks to a grant from USA this year, we're going to have 2 cohorts, which means that right now we close applications for the spring cohort. Right now we're reviewing applications. And then in May, we are going to open the second round of applications for the fall cohort, which starts the end of August. So everybody can keep an eye on social media, because we're going to start advertising when we are taking applications for the second cohort. And you never know. Hopefully by next year we have more cohorts, more than 2. But this is the 4th year for the leadership program, and it has grown very, very quickly, faster than what we were expecting, and it's becoming much better than what we ever thought it will be. So it's amazing.
It
Yeah,
sounds really cool.
yeah, it does.
So in order to be part of the mentorship, like to become a mentor, are you expected to go through that leadership development program first and then come in?
No, so our volunteers do not go through the leadership program, because we don't want our volunteers to compete with other 1,000 people for a seat on the leadership program. What we do, that's how we actually do development trainings. So some of the quarterly development trainings that we offer is coming from references that we got from Harvard University to teach leadership skills, and the mental health ally that all of our volunteers receive is the same one that the cohort at the leadership program is receiving. So although we are not able to bring everything to our volunteers, we're bringing a little by little, and hopefully one day we'll get there. but our volunteers are learning the skills. When you go to the leadership program, you earn a certificate from Harvard University and MSAN in leadership. And then, of course, I mean, the value of the training that you're getting for each spouse can cost around $10,000 per spouse if you will do it on your own. So we're now investing in 50 people, something we're not able to do for our volunteers, but we are bringing something to them little by little at a time. So, yeah.
It sounds like a great opportunity, especially for those who, I mean, like you were saying earlier, military spouses are doers. We want to get out there and make the life better. We have a lot of spouses that, are advocates. They are meeting with political parties. They are creating their own nonprofits. They are working with installations to better the lives. And so having a resource that is providing that extra skill set for a spouse that may not be able to have it in any other way is just really fantastic. I know I appreciate it because, I would love to go back to school and things like that, but it's just not in our cards for me to do that. And so having the opportunity to apply to better not only myself, but also all of the volunteer work that I do, whether it's Deployed Love or through other organizations, it's really great to have that resource. So I think it's 100%.
You said a keyword right now. If you don't get in for this cohort, to keep applying. We don't want anybody to feel discouraged that, oh, I applied, I didn't get in, probably not good enough. That's not the case. It's the opposite. Everybody should take this training, and we have different levels of reviews. We have review committees that help us to review all the applications and kind of like at the end select the 50 of them. But we don't want anybody to feel discouraged, because if you don't get in this time, I mean, you will the second time. We had people that just graduated in November. They had applied 2-3 times and they finally were able to get in. So I love that, because that's something that we are known for, military spouses, that we don't give up and we are persistent. So I wanted to continue to do this, because at least until we get to be able to do 1,000 a year, we're doing 100 a year now. But I don't want anybody to feel discouraged, because the time will come and everybody deserves to be there. I also don't want anybody to think that you have to have a platform, or you don't need to have a nonprofit. You do not need to have any of that. What we are looking for is that military spouses tell us how this training is going to make your life better. How will you utilize this training? If you tell us that you're going to utilize this training because it's needed at home, because you got challenges to go through. I mean, like I said, even the communication skills that we learn about how you is going to support you and help you to communicate with your spouse and your kids. And there's so many benefits of this program that we want to know, what are your needs and how do you think that this training is going to help you, regardless if you have an initiative or not. A lot of the times we have seen spouses that tell us, well, I don't really know what to do with it, or I don't even know if I have an initiative. But you know what? We do have it, because our neighbors, so most of the time, are military members. And maybe we don't know them, but we don't know what they're going to be in need. Sometimes you advocate for others, even though you don't call yourself an advocate. Sometimes you are leading initiatives, although you don't think you're a leader. So there's so many things that we do in our lifestyle that we are not giving ourselves credit for what we're doing. So we're trying to teach military spouses that you are doing it. You are there. You're just not giving yourself the credit, or you don't consider yourself an advocate, a leader, you name it, a co-founder, a founder. That doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean that you're not doing it. So we are helping spouses to identify that, what we call meta leadership, and how you identify yourself as a leader, you individually, and then what the effects you're having outside.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. So because I mean, I think about it obviously for what I am in as a founder, but also I'm a homeschool mom, and that's not a title I give myself very often. When I talk about myself, I don't think about it, but there is a massive amount of leadership just in running our house and running a school out of our house, essentially, kind of thing. I'm so every mom, every military spouse, I mean, just managing your spouse's schedule and knowing when and not they're coming in and out and what you need to cook meals for and what meals I can eat my own little meal at home because he's not going to be here that night is all leadership skills. I don't think people realize that like those things really do tie into leadership.
Yes, you know, and something that like this leadership that we are teaching about is leadership in crisis. And believe it or not, sometimes we become so familiar with a lifestyle that we forget that we live in crisis because we move so often, because it's so unpredictable, because deployments happen, because anything happens from one day to the other. Your spouse may leave this morning and they come back and they're like, oh, guess what? I got news. So your life is turned upside down within 12-hour difference or even shorter than that. So we become so familiar with it that we assume that it's normal, but it's not. So when we start talking about leadership in crisis and everything that we do from PCSing and getting everything ready every 2-3 years, we're just getting ourselves to decompress when here comes the next move and you have to regroup everything again. So talking about all of those things, sharing experiences, the cohort becomes so close that they share experiences, they share what they're going through. It becomes emotional. They found their vulnerable and safe place where they can talk about things, and others can help them how to navigate through that. So it is a great. I mean, every time that we hit 4 months, graduation is over, and everybody's like, "What? What do you mean it's over? We wanted more. We can't believe it's been 4 months," because it's such a wonderful experience.
Well, I think my favorite part about it is that you also include spouses from the whole range of the military family, right? So, like, you have retirees, you have brand new spouses, you have veteran spouses. As a veteran spouse, I feel like we're not always included in things that are still for military, which you
Yeah.
fall out of that, where retirees still are. But just because we got out before we retired, it's like, oh, you're not part of the military family anymore. And it's a crazy world, but it's like to see that all of your programs, not only this, but your mentorship and everything includes everybody who's been part of the military family is the coolest part about your whole program, I think.
Yes, you know, we kind of like what Ashley said earlier, once a military spouse, always a military spouse. Unfortunately, programming do not see us that way. Unfortunately, some resources do not see us that way. And that is one of the things that we're like, okay, we're not going to do that because, and at least now that I'm on the other side, I get to see that, wow, we really separate or retire and everything is gone. And it's hard to actually something that isn't being considered that after you separate or retired and everything is gone, that's when we are starting our lives. That's when we decide to say, now is my time to start my career and now it's my time to go back to school. Well, guess what? Now you have nothing available to you because you're separated, you're retired, or whatever. So that is a little bit unfair that we're always putting ourselves on the side to support our spouse and say, when the time comes, it will be my turn. But when it is our turn, everything is gone. So I wanted to make sure that our programming was not going to be one of those.
Yeah, I love that because even as like a current spouse where my husband's rank is now too high to utilize a lot of the programs that are out there from military spouses, and you know, being able to have go to a program knowing like it doesn't matter rank, season, anything like that, we can come to MSAN and know that there's going to be someone there that we can connect with. We can connect our stories, learn new resources, apply for different programs. And I think that's really important out there because there are so many programs that are geared towards brand new spouses, really young spouses, that lower rank age. And then, like, you know, Sabrina said, like, there isn't the amount of families that we've talked to over the last few years about resources after getting out of the military or transitioning out of the military or being like in that process is really limited. And so it's nice having at least one solid program that we can share with military spouses saying, hey, like, don't forget, like,
Yeah,
this
because
doesn't
I
matter.
feel like my soldier, my spouse had a lot of resources that were available to him as the veteran, but then I just didn't have a title anymore. Like it just you're no longer a military spouse, you're no longer anything really. Veteran spouse is not really acknowledged anywhere. Like that doesn't mean anything to anybody because they're like, oh, you didn't serve, so what? So what? So,
Yeah.
and then the other family, or like the group that we had on recently on a podcast, actually, Laura isn't going to join us and be part of our podcast now because we just don't have enough representation, is the Gold Star families. And you do also include them, which is really
Yes.
beautiful because
Yes.
though they do have access to base, they just don't feel like they fit there anymore. And that
Mm-hmm.
completely makes sense when you don't have that, your military member, but they are also still military spouses. Like that is still that title that kind of reigns with them. So it's beautiful that you also allow them to be part of the family still through your programs.
Yes. Yeah. Caregivers, Gold Star spouses, surviving spouses, veteran, active duty, everybody
Everybody.
deserves the opportunity to continue their education and develop their skills and do whatever they want to do. Yes.
Right. So let's hop back a little bit to the mentorship program. So we kind of talked about
Mm-hmm.
like the training that you provide to mentors, but I was a little bit more interested in like how do people find this resource and how do they get like attached to someone that would help mentorship them in their lives?
Yes. We have a word of mouth, we have social media, we have the website, newsletters, everything. So anybody can just go to our website and then go to join the hub. When you join the hub, you fill out what we call an access form. And this is pretty much for us to identify uh, what you need, what are you looking for? We need to find out, okay, so you are an Army spouse and what is it that you're looking for. That way we can bring you the best mentor that will relate to what are your needs. And now inside the mentorship hub, you have access to see who are all the mentors, and you can pick your own if you want. But we will also we don't want to give you an extra task, so we will help you identify someone that is close to you. The mentor mentee, once they have the relationship, they have the option to meet through Zoom, through email, to phone calls, you name it. There's always a connection within the mentor mentee. We do not have an expiration date, which means that your mentor will be your mentor as long as you want that mentor to be your mentor. So if you come right now to us and say, I'm about to BCS, it's going crazy, I need some help, you'll be assigned to the mentor for a few weeks to get you ready, situated, ready to go. Then if you cannot come back after 5 months because you're settling and all of that, that's okay. You can come back 5 months later and then you can continue to receive support. That is something that there are a lot of mentorship programs out there, like for career and employment, and there's only like a 1 year and then that's it, good luck after that. We don't do that because ours is a lifestyle mentorship program on anything related that you are going through. So that's why it never expires. And that will always be your mentor. And like I said, if you decide to change it because now you want to meet with someone in person because they're close to your area, then of course we can do that. But that is the way that a mentee can find us, is going through our website, sign up, and then we do all the work. And then of course you will receive an email from your mentor, and then they start connecting. They can meet as often as they need. And then, of course, inside that mentorship hub, they will continue to have assistance from advocates. They have access to training modules, and that can be through PCS, that can be through financial readiness. So there's a lot of things. And then, of course, we have our mentors always posting about new resources that you know this, that you know that. So it's always extremely active when it comes to learning new things and be able to communicate with others and build relationships.
Super cool. So you were talking about the 24-hour thing. So I am curious if you have a mentor, like you're assigned a mentor, right? But then something happens in the middle of the night and that person is not available. Is it possible to just kind of switch to a different mentor so you have
Yes.
someone to talk to?
Yes.
Okay.
We have those situations when it is a mentor mentee and you're just going to schedule something and you can send an email and you can wait. But when there is a situation, and we have received a lot of requests when it comes to a crisis, when it comes to domestic violence, suicide, and all of that, then we actually take that the priority and we assign it to the right team. Not only the mentor is going to be available, but we have a protocol that we follow so that we are able to help spouses in distress and be able to provide the best support that is needed.
That's amazing. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Especially being overseas, like that's always a concern is like, will I be able to have someone, maybe not always in my
Mm-hmm.
area because I mean, it's a small community, but like to be able to reach out to someone when I need to,
But
you
there
know?
is someone that will be available to answer your questions and be able to connect with you if something is happening. Definitely, yes.
So as far as the mentors, is there a level of commitment that they're required if they were to volunteer for you?
Yes, the cool thing about it when you go to our website and you kind of like want to join the team and want to see what is available, not only do we tell you what is available, you can actually click on the links and it shows you what are the requirements, kind of like a role description, and kind of like the commitment that we ask. So it can be 3 to 5 hours a week for you to mentor and be active in the hub and be able to bring resources and chat with other mentees and stuff like that. And then of course the meetings, the trainings, the everything that is part of that requirement of 3 to 5 hours a week that is already included in there. So one of the things that I always ask everybody is that becoming a mentor is not for everybody. And although all of us military spouses want a mentor, because we wish we had a mentor when we became military spouses, we all have the ability to do it. Now, we need to have the passion and the dedication. Now, the passion in a way that you're going to do your best as a mentor, because we have to, this is why we provide official training, because as military spouses, we relate to the struggles of our mentee. So we have to be careful that we don't cross the line where we are now going to be another like, oh my God, I went through that. And then now both of us are a hot mess and we're not able to help each other because we're in those feelings. So what we teach our mentees is how to be able to not cross the line where you are still a mentor and you are able to guide and you are able to support, although you relate to that struggle, to that pain, or to anything the spouse is going through, you relate to it. And you have compassion for it, but you don't cross a line where now you can still feel like, okay, I'm still able to support because I am not like I said, to me, it will be so easy to start crying with someone else, or to be like, oh my God, I feel like the same way that you are, and I'm with you, and now who's going to get us out of there? So we look, and when we talk to spouses, they go through a HR department, they go through interviews, and they go through the interview with a mentorship team to make sure that we are addressing these things. I mean, it's an extremely fulfilling role, and you feel rewarded because you know you're helping someone. But it can also be the opposite. It can be draining because you're hearing the stories, because you know someone is struggling, because you know someone is in crisis and distress. And that's why we got to make sure that we have that we are training people in those skills, because we know it can be tough. So yeah, that's kind of like what we look for. So
No,
commitment,
it's super
number
cool
one.
because I think what you have built is like when I first came into the military, the FRG was a totally different program than what it is now. But it was more like what you're talking about. It was more like the older spouses kind of took in the new spouses, and we kind of had this organization where we met up every couple weeks and we went out to coffee. Like it was just more of a mentorship type situation where a lot of the officers would help take care of the enlisted. And then it just isn't the same way anymore. So what you're providing is really cool. And not only that, but you're providing something that is like across the world. Because as military spouses, I loved having my first FRG was so inclusive. I felt like I meshed with a whole different variety of people who had been in for 20 years. I was, just brand new. And that's what I always thought FRG should be. And as the years have passed, it isn't that way anymore. And a lot of it is actually ran by the military members, which is just a choice that the military has made, and that's fine. But I remember getting this similar training to like what you're talking about, like how to help during the crises and stuff. And I think that it's super important to have that training, but also to have people that have gone through similar things with you. Like the spouse to spouse advocacy is what's really cool about the program, because it's not just like, now if you're to reach out to FRG, you may get like just talk to the chaplain or something like that, where this is really cool because you're like, this is someone who gets it. Someone who has done this or has been through it, or one of their friends has been through a similar situation, right? Like it's to just have an advocate that really gets what you're going through is really cool. And so I think you've made this like beautiful worldwide FRG that everybody can be involved with in all the branches. And you made this community that is just really, really cool.
Yeah, and we get to learn so much from the young spouses, all the brand new spouses, and this is something that has helped me to share the data or the testimonies or what is happening with the Department of Defense, with the Department of VA, because we hear the stories, because we are there, we got boots in the ground, and it's so easy to lose focus of the real problems when you're up here, because everything is policy oriented, because everything is budget oriented, but they forget that those numbers are also stories. We cannot just focus on numbers. We got to focus on the stories and the faces and the names. So we have access to to brand new military spouses, very young ones, coming from basic training for the Air Force and Space Force. So our resources briefed every Thursday during basic training graduation for the Air Force and Space Force every Thursday. So all brand new spouses, significant others, you name it, have the opportunity to learn about this and have the opportunity to get assigned to a mentor. What we are learning from them is that the youngest generation of military spouses does not look the way it did at 24 years when I married my husband. And this is something that is changing, and that we got to make sure that us as resources, we are changing with them. We cannot expect the younger generation to mold to the way it was. We got to mold to the way that it is now. It should be the opposite. And this is something that I'm bringing to DoD levels and military leaders and everybody that hears the story, that I met a 17-year-old at basic training graduation like 5 years ago. And I asked her, how you doing? Are you excited? She starts crying. She is extremely overwhelmed. She was 7 months pregnant at 17. So when I asked her, what is the plan? What's going to happen next? So I could get an idea how to help her. And she's like, well, we're getting married tomorrow. Then I'm going back home to graduate high school online. Then I'm having the baby. Then in the summer, we're moving. I have never left my parents' house before. This was a 17-year-old that was not only about to turn 18 and being of age, but now she was having a baby, graduate high school, and leave home for the first time, and leave home with a baby and a husband and a new life and everything. Can you imagine how hard that is? So this is how new families are looking now. This is what the new airman, the new guardian, the new sailor, the new soldier looks like now with families. And this is something that up here, they kind of lose touch of it, that we have to adjust to the change, because this is the new face of the military family, the new space of the military spouse. And if we don't mold, we do not change to be able to relate to what they're going through, our programming is never going to be relevant. Our programming is going to go down because we are not changing to their needs. We're expecting them to do the opposite, and that's not the way it should be.
Yeah, the military as a whole is a very old thing, and I don't feel like they change and update a lot of things. And so it is different, and each generation, like we just joined TikTok for our it's like this platform, and we're in our mid-30s where we're like, I don't know how to do this.
Yep.
But we know this is how we have to reach those younger people who are just joining the military. So we get to play the games of like, how do we catch up with them?
Yep.
And how do we figure out how to reach them? Because we do have a good following, but I feel like a lot of them are in our age group, because we find them on, Facebook and Instagram, which is not as relevant anymore, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, that is now like for older people. If you talk to a 20 plus year old, they're like, oh yeah, that's for old people. And and that is the beauty, kind of like the stuff that you guys are doing, growing your team and bringing more diversity. That's kind of like what happens with MSAN. Within our mentors, within our staff, within everybody, we are of all backgrounds, of all ages. Why? I mean, I'm just the lucky one that they had an idea and it grew into a nonprofit. But I am not the face of MSAN. It's all of us. And that's what I tell all my volunteers. This is also your baby. And you are a piece of the puzzle. And if that piece is not in the puzzle, is not complete, we're not going to move forward. So we have young spouses. We have young faces that can relate to other ones. Because I always tell everybody, I don't want people to think I'm the face of MSAN because I'm older. Now they're going to be like, oh, I'm not going to relate to that older lady. But no, I'm just a founder. They had an idea.
So the last kind of like little bit about your company is the hub. I wouldn't say it's little. I mean, it's obviously kind of where everybody can kind of get involved if they don't want to look for a mentor, they're not looking for leadership. This is where you can really get involved with MSAN in the littlest ways, but like Ashley was talking about, it's got some really cool resources.
Been going through it every few days, looking through the post, and joined some of the chats and things like that, and the courses, and it's really easy, and it's great because I haven't felt that there's been any type of negativity or anything like that. It's very welcoming. It's very, I think I made a post like a week ago about I think I posted my photo of my office and was just like, I feel so accomplished that I've like redid my office, and like just the amount of like people cheering the photo and things like that. Like it's very, very welcoming. And I think that's a great thing to have for a lot of spouses, because especially nowadays in the social media world, we do have some bad apples, unfortunately, and there are people who are not very kind. And so having a safe space for spouses who are looking for a safe space to have that connection, to find someone to connect with, is so, so important, especially with the way that military is going currently with the rapid deployments and harsher training cycles and things like that. So it's an amazing program, and I'm excited to be a part of it. I love the app so far. Like I said, I've only been in it for a couple of months, but it's a great resource.
It
And I
sounds like a really good idea because social media, we've talked about it on here a lot of times. Like,
Mhm.
you don't get to choose who your mentor is, like in this case, where like you don't get to know that this person that you're talking to on social media even knows anything. I mean, there's so many people that troll and they just get on there and they're like, yeah, you should do this, you should do that. I mean, don't take advice from Facebook. I feel like as a young spouse, you come in and you're like, well, this is where I can find people in my community, but it's not the best place to do that because people just don't care. They don't care what they're saying and how it's actually affecting people's
Yep.
choices and people what they're doing with their life. So I feel like
So
join the
having
hub
a
instead.
vetted
Yeah.
source that is like, who has the training, who is there to solely be a mentor, which is great. And like, Sabrina said, like the FRG and like the military lifestyle is very different. Like when I first came in as a spouse, it was during a time where there was mentorship. Like you were like, hey, like the FRG leader would reach out and say, welcome to the unit, things like that. Now I didn't have that, but I didn't have a very good first FRD, but I grew up military, so I knew what to expect. And so um that became my mission as a military spouse, was to help as many military spouses as I could feel welcome during a huge transition for most people. Like you said, like a lot of them are, right out of high school, first time away from home, never been out of the state they were born in, things like that. And so it is a huge culture shock. And so having that person who can just be like, hey, it's going to get better. Here are some tips to, you know, make your life at this new duty station better, however it may be. And I think it's so important. And I really wish that the military would focus more on this with their command teams and stuff like that, because FRG teams are now command led. So it's really based off of what the command team wants to do. And so I love that there's this resource, and there's other resources like nonprofits like Deployed Love that are all just out there trying to help military spouses get through the day to day, through every season that they may come across, because we all go through the different seasons. I've been a military spouse for 15 years and I grew up in the military. So 35 plus years, I have eat, breathed, and slept the military lifestyle. And so I know how difficult it can be as a kid, as a spouse, and during all the different seasons. So if you're listening and you haven't reached out to a mentor, or if you haven't gone over to MSAN or through another program, find the people who are there. They want to help you. And I think that's great that you have over 150 individuals whose sole mission is to be there for military spouses, because even though we're a small but mighty community, we do need that extra support during those hard times. I suggest don't do it by yourself. Find your tribe, find your community, find someone. One person will make the world of a difference when it comes to a deployment or a PCS move, or I mean, special duty assignments. This is my second special duty assignment where I've been stationed away from a military installation. It's very different. It's very hard to connect with people. It's very hard to make friends when you don't have that connection with other people, and you explain to them why your spouse works until 9 o'clock every night or is gone for weeks at a time. So it's so important. And there really are so many amazing programs that are out there, but knowing that there's a program where they're vetted and they're trained and that it's a safe space. I can't wait to share this with all of the spouses that we know and through all of our networks and stuff like that, because it really truly is a great program. And even like the opportunity to do the leadership and things like that, like it's such a great opportunity and will help military spouses do more and show the world that, yep, we can do things our own, but the power that we have as a group is so much better, and that we can conquer anything that we put our minds to. And we see it every day through military spouses around the country. Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, thank you for coming on and telling us everything about MSAN. As Ashley was saying, we are definitely going to be making sure this gets out to our community as well as everywhere that we can share about it, because it's just kind of what the military community really genuinely needs. And to be able to get that into as many hands as possible is really cool. So if you guys are listening and you're interested in finding out more, check the show notes, because we're going to have all the links and everything available to you guys there, as well as contact information to any of us if you're looking to reach out to us specifically. But thank you for coming on. We really appreciated it.
Yeah, and that's one of the Deployed Love's goal, is to be able to help spouses find the resources that fit their best needs. And so we are so excited to be able to share this on the podcast, but also within the Deployed Love realm. And so we really hope that we can bring you guys some more families.
All right. Well, everybody, we will be back again in 2 weeks with another episode, and we are really glad that you're here joining us. So, as we like to say, ruck up, Buttercup.